Hey fam, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If it is your first time here, I officially welcome you. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome. It is good to have you here. So please leave me a comment down in the comment section below, even if it's a heart, so that I can notice you and share my love with you. And if you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe and hit the notification button so that you get notified whenever I put up content, because on this channel we are all about growing together. This is a continuation of the previous sit down video that we had, where I was sharing to you about the story of, is it the story or so, how I really just got this whole interest to actually come to learn about the story of Saul. Initially, what took me to the book of Samuel, right, was the children of Eli, right? Understanding the story of the children of Eli, which is it Hophnis and Phinehas, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, I do not know how to pronounce their names. What took me to that book was the interest of understanding the story of the children of Eli and how disobedient they were to God, right? So even before I actually got to that particular point, I sat down and I started to think about, is it the sons of Aaron? They were also priests, the priests of God, these who were left in charge of burning incense on the altar for the people, and all that was their duty. And you look at these two sons of Aaron, these were people who were too caught up with producing always producing something. They always wanted to be something, like something burning on the altar, in as much as they understood, right, that for a priest to come and burn incense on the altar, you have to receive an instruction from God. But they risked it, okay? They risked their calling, because for them there was a people that could not wait to hear from God. There was a people that couldn't wait to see a fire produced on the altar. To them, these were people who did not know, who could not tell whether the fire that was being produced on the altar was one of God or not. So for them, they were like, okay, you know what? Let's produce the fire. Let's do what they want, what they've asked, because they've asked. We have not heard from God, but let's do what the people have told us to do, because it probably must be right for us to do this particular thing. So in that whole thing of them wanting to please a people, they now burn incense on the altar, and before you realize it, it produces a strange fire before God, one that is not pleasing before his sight. And instantly they died. Okay, they died. One thing I've come to learn about the Old Testament is how we ought not to play with the presence of God, right? How we're not supposed to play with the presence of God. It's just that in this day and age, you know, God is merciful, God is faithful, like he's a merciful father. That which used to happen in the Old Testament is not happening now. So you see that we have gotten so comfortable, right? We have gotten so comfortable with not having reverence for the presence of God, because we as children of God, who, regardless of who we are, we were called to carry the presence of God. And to carry the presence of God, you need to carry it in the space that in a space that represents heaven. Okay, that represents heaven. So when I went to the book of Samuel and came across the story of Eli, right, there's a time where Eli's sons, these were disobedient priests in the eyes of God. These were people who had led God's children astray. You know, they asked for the sacrifice that was supposed to be for God. They took it for themselves. The point where the person who's coming to sacrifice, he knows that this belongs to God, but because the priest would bully them saying, hey, give it to us, and they would take what belonged to God for themselves. And they kind of got comfortable in that particular state. What I mean, they kind of got comfortable is that, if I'm not mistaken, if it's in chapter 4, it should be chapter 4 of 1 Samuel, where the children of Israel were in battle with the Philistines, right? And the children of Israel were losing. They were losing. They were losing the battle. So the priests decided to carry the Ark of Covenant, which was a representation of God's presence, into the battle. So even as they carried the Ark of Covenant into the presence, into the battlefield, the children of Israel began to there was an uproar. They were excited to see the ark, which represented the presence of God, saying, we have won the battle because God has come in. And when the Philistines actually heard the uproar, okay, they heard the uproar, they heard how excited the Israelites were. They knew indeed, the God who saved them from the Egyptian, that one who saved them, that one who killed Pharaoh's child, he's come. And there's nothing for us. We have lost. We have lost the battle. But as you read down further, you realize that the Philistines won the battle against the children of Israel. And the Ark of Covenant was captured. Not because the presence of God was not there. It was there. It's just that the people who carried the presence of God were compromised priests. They were priests who were not sanctified before God. Why I say this is, when the Philistines took the Ark of God into the presence, into their camp, they put it in a room where a god of theirs, an idol that they worshipped, is a Dagon. And the following day, when they came through, they found that the idol had lay flat, and it had lay flat on the floor. And they took up the idol and they put it back again in the position. The following day, when they came, they found that it was just, the thresh body, the legs and everything was dislocated and thrown, or I don't even know how to explain it. I've probably just put the whole scripture here for you to understand. And in that moment, it made me realize that where the presence of God is, there is liberty, no matter what. No matter what, there is liberty where the presence of God is. But what determines that liberty is how the heart posture of that one particular person who desires to carry the presence of God. The heart, how is your heart posture? Are you a priest that has been purified and sanctified before God? As long as your heart does not represent heaven, does not represent that which God can dwell in, you're a compromised priest. In as much as you carry the presence of God, it cannot be made fully manifest until your heart resembles something that is able to hold his presence. Okay, that is able to hold his presence. Most definitely, the Philistines thought that their God is powerless. He's got no power. Literally has no power. For him to actually have lost the battle, for the Israelites to have actually lost the battle, meaning he's not a powerful God. But when you see what happened to the Philistines when the ark went to their kingdom, how the idol that they used to worship was broken, how the plagues that came upon the Philistines, no matter which location that they took the Ark of the Covenant, that just shows that the presence of God was still there in the Ark of the Covenant. The only thing was the priests that carried the presence were compromised priests. So the whole reason why I shared this is for us to understand that on our walk with God, if we're truly going to desire for God's for God to manifest, for God's presence to manifest in everything that we do, okay? In everything that we do, our hearts have to be pure. You need to understand that just because the presence of God is not manifesting, it doesn't mean there's no other spirit that is manifesting. There is. Don't get comfortable with a heart that you know really needs to be consecrated for God, fully, wholly given up for Him, in order for His presence to be manifested. Beloved, the word reminds us of how in the days to come, in the last day, in Matthew's, about how many will come before Him and say, Lord, but we preached in your name, we healed in your name. And He says, I do not know you. Why? Because your heart was in a compromised position. If you need to pray and ask God to help you, pray unto Him. Pray unto God to create in you a clean heart, purify you, a heart that is worthy to carry His presence. Because He desires for you to carry His presence. For He created you in His image. For you to be created in His image, it means that you were created to carry the presence of God. But in order for that to happen, you need to get to a place where you are consecrated and you live holy for Him. Yeah, so in today's sharing, our Bible Chitchat, this is what we had. And let me know if you're enjoying these mini Bible sharing, these mini Bible studies that we have come up with. Trust me, I don't even know where it came from. All I know, I found myself doing this. Let me know if you would love more of this. But otherwise, if God says do not speak, I will not speak, because I do not want to produce a strange fire just because I have asked you, hey, do you want this? And you've agreed that you want it. If He requires me to remain silent, I will remain silent, because at the end of the day, we must desire to hear from God, to move in the will of God, and not produce because the world requires us to produce, especially in our callings, the departments that God has called us to serve in. We need to be careful to not get so caught up in being a servant that we forget that before becoming a servant, God called us to be a son, to carry His presence, and not necessarily the calling, but to be His son, to manifest His presence. If you have gotten this far, thank you for reaching this far, and I will see you in the next video. Don't forget that I love you always, and Jesus loves you too, more than I do, because He loved you first, even before you were formed in your mother's womb. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.